We have 2 days left of this US retreat. This is day 5 and tomorrow is the last day, day 6. I'm kind of feeling it myself. I just counted that tomorrow, Wednesday, within the last 2 weeks from Wednesday, I've been teaching on 12 days, and I'm definitely feeling it. Had to cancel the satsang on Thursday because on Friday there's a weekend retreat starting. So, had to take 1 day off. Otherwise, I would be fried. Well, I would survive, but I have to take a day off here and there. So pretty intense at my end also. But that's how I want it. That's how I. If I go down, I go down with my boots on. Isn't that how you say it? So let's take a look at what we have covered in these my sessions on this retreat. I hope I've been able to convey and explain the basic ins and outs, the basic mechanisms, so that you have a clear understanding what we are doing. You're welcome to ask questions if you have. If there is something you haven't perhaps understood. And always, bodhicitta is something that I emphasize a lot. I just had a thought. I've been discussing one new Sangha member that we have is this American lady called Susan, who spent over 40 years in Vajrayana practice. And she said an interesting thing, that her main teacher, who passed away 2 or 3 years ago, very, very famous and published author and all, but Susan told me that her teacher didn't really even mention bodhicitta that often. And well, this teacher was a teacher of Mahamudra and Dzogchen, but I kind of, to my ear, it sounded curious, interesting. I do the opposite way, for the simple reason that the idea of bodhicitta is very simple, and when you just do the practice, it's very effective. Using bodhicitta as like a practice from relative perspective, and it quite easily makes a shift happen in our energy, in our mind, and so the absolute bodhicitta shows up. Of course, this mentioned teacher whose name I won't mention here, but he was all about absolute bodhicitta. But the reason why I like to emphasize relative bodhicitta together with absolute is because we are in relative condition, relative situation, samsaric situation, and we are kind of digging our way out of that, or finding way out of that. So we've done a bit of bodhicitta, and I think we will continue today with bodhicitta in the context of trauma and traumatization of those around us. And then we have done mending practice. Yesterday we also did, like I have explained, what I call mending the broken human. I wanted not to use the shamanic term called soul retrieval. I don't think soul retrieval either is like a traditional translation from some native shamanic practice because of the term soul. But I didn't want to use soul retrieval because the word soul is a bit problematic, because what we are actually retrieving, calling back, is bits and pieces of our subtle body, sometimes realigning our physical tissues. So the word soul is not perfect match for me. So that's why I thought about it for a couple of hours and came up with the mending title. But then yesterday evening, the last prayer that I said on behalf of us all, it was something called power retrieval. So two kinds of retrievals: bits and pieces of the plumbing, and then fragments or bits and pieces, if you can say it like that, of vital energy, vitality, prana, chi, that gets scattered with the bits and pieces of plumbing. So this is these two, soul retrieval and power retrieval, in my limited understanding of shamanic practices, are quite central to what shamans do, and I felt the benefits of those both of them, so that's why I teach them. And like I said, to my knowledge, especially mending practice or soul retrieval, I have never met or seen in the world of yoga and tantra. Maybe it's taught somewhere in a hidden corner of the tantric world, but I've never seen it anywhere. But it's so important, as you probably already understand from your own experience after these couple of sessions, that this is very important. Not only purification of the system, but also gluing back broken bits and pieces. And also the third bit that I introduced yesterday, inviting also one's original vitality back, one's original vital energy back. So in these sessions we've also done, I don't remember, 1 or 2 sessions of Guru Yoga with Rainbow Shamans. And I kind of had the initial plan of doing some Rainbow Shaman Guru Yoga in this session. But let's see. I might change plans, or plans might change mid-air. So let's start with aligning our bodies and establishing bodhicitta like we always do. Even if we are, despite whether we are rested or tired, our basic nature is the same. Whether we are relaxed or tense, our basic nature is the same. But, of course, because the whole tantric path is about transformation, purification, that's why relaxation is helpful. And it's also helpful to be rested rather than tired when practicing. what is connected to ourselves feeling rested and fit to practice is also related to diet. Tantrics need to eat substantial food. Maybe if you're 30 years old or less, you can sustain with lighter food, but probably at 35 or more, you need more substantial to have enough fuel. What also affects our restedness, our ability to practice well, is other things in life. Relationships, work, stress coming from various things like finances, health, of course. Isn't that right? Logical. But something important about Tantra, Yoga Tantra, Tantric Yoga, is that it is not the path of renunciation. We don't keep away or push away things that we desire. Or what we can enjoy. But at the same time, we need to be skillful about those things. So, if we like drinking wine, it would be like a misuse of the tantric view to, okay, well, tantrics don't do renunciation, so I'll drink 3 bottles of wine a day. Sure, if you want to delude yourself, go ahead, but that's not the point. But it's, isn't it empowering? There's so much influence from the monasticism, both from our, own Christian or post-Christian influences that affect us, and then also from Eastern Dharma traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, where there's lots of influence of monasticism that kind of sneaks into the picture, sneaks into the view. But this is something we should think about, contemplate, that tantrics are householders and we are not monastics, not nuns or monks, and our lifestyles, our way of living, while there's the central element of practice and practice of Dharma, central element, something fundamental, then we have all these other things in life. Enjoyments, relationships, parties, sexual pleasures, good meals in restaurants, exercise, and so on. Work, of course, family life. So that's the ground of tantric training. Everything in our lives is the ground of training. Of course, if we are stressed out and overwhelmed by some things in our lives, then we need to think about how we could reduce those causes of stress. Because if we are stressed all the time, it's strain on the body, pressure on the body, and then it right away, comes at the expense of practice and benefits from practice. I'm not saying that, if you don't feel that way, I'm not saying that you should have Dharma as the central part in your life. But I think this is how most people who find their way to Dharma feel. Many people feel that way automatically because it brings clarity to us, brings relief in so many ways, makes our health better. So that's why it kind of becomes a central element easily, effortlessly. But if you don't feel that way, I'm not telling that you should feel that way. You are totally free to feel however you feel like, and please don't force yourself. Never force yourself. Always find the motivation to practice from the need to practice. This is a clear point from Shakyamuni Buddha in his Four Noble Truths, that Dharma is medicine to suffering and confusion, dukkha. So find your motivation from the fact that you suffer, are deluded, are confused. But if you don't feel that way, don't force it. If you don't see the point, don't force it. So, our original purity. Our original purity. Each one of us, in our very cells that create our bodies, at this very moment, this is the pure body. This body that you feel, in the form of your head, in the shape of your face, ears, crown, back of the head, neck, throat, body that continues down from the chest to arms, hands, fingers. This body, originally pure. Just effortlessly present. Effortlessly radiant. Already whole, connected, without fragments. As you're sitting there, sit in a way that you're like completely open. Think of a house and think of doors and windows of a house. First, the doors and windows are shut, and suddenly all the doors and windows are open. when doors and windows are open, fresh air is flowing in and out, unobstructed. In exactly the same way, sitting. So relax like suddenly, completely through, relax. Just let go of all subconscious holding that is there. Completely dropping. If it's half a second that you feel these windows and doors open, that is very good. Then just repeat it. So my analogy of windows and doors open, I try to describe that we are sitting in a way that we don't, when we sit down, we don't just stay in this fixated mental, emotional, psychologically limited state, energetically constricted state, but the opposite of that. For once, completely soft, like when we were babies, 1-year-olds. I know very well that the instructions that I just gave can be very difficult to execute, and it can make us very frustrated. Well, if we have reactions about that thing or other things, become aware of your reaction. And simply have patience and understanding that even if we have a pure basic nature, it takes time to return to it. It takes time to re-establish it. And that's exactly where when I was speaking about the lifestyle of a tantric, comes into the picture. Because it is a lifestyle, it's a ongoing commitment to practice and the path. It is perfectly fine for me if you view practice like kind of like taking a shower, just doing a little cleaning of 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes a day, and kind of forget it for the rest of the day. I don't have a problem with that. But the reason why I speak about tantric way of life and like a committed practice is because I feel that the world, and especially West, needs yogis and yoginis. We have priests, psychologists, doctors, but none of them have the expertise and knowledge like yogis do. When I say yogis, I refer to both genders. And this is why, especially in the light of bodhicitta, which from the relative perspective means connecting with other people, our species, and helping them, showing them what's possible, showing them that there's a way out. You know, we can't really help people from reading quotes from books. You understand my point? So we first need to do work on ourselves so that we have something to show others, that we have some real skill, real cause, ability to help others. And that comes from committed practice. It only comes from that. I remember my big brother back in the day. He's 9 years older than I am, and he's still a musician. I was also trained as a musician and a music producer. And when I was still a very young teenager, contemplating about great musicians and artists, like how they get so good, and he leaned towards me and said that, how to translate this? Something like to become great, to become a pro, it just requires your ass muscles. And it's true to yogis as well. Perseverance, patience, grinding it day in, day out. Grinding it with the blood of our hearts. Right? There's actually a story I remember, of Milarepa. Was it Milarepa or somebody in his lineage? Like he was giving the last teaching to his main disciple and said that I have just one more teaching for you. And then he showed his ass, like his bare ass, and there were these calluses in his ass. There's actually a cartoon version of this, so you can see like a drawing of the ass with balls hanging and all. But the point is exactly the same, what I'm trying to say. Whether we just want to connect with person to person, connect with people, or if we want to connect as instructors, acharyas, or teachers, or gurus, maybe some of you becomes like a guru, we need to have solid experience. And this kind of help the world needs and the West needs. Isn't that right? Very simple. So, whatever exercises you practice, put your heart in it. Even if you're tired, Even if you're exhausted, if you're stressed, if you're in burnout, put your heart and soul, the blood of your heart into it. This is my experience. Because the thing is that when you take refuge, when you turn to the refuge jewels, not only when you feel good and rested and having had a meal, your belly full, not during those easy moments, but especially when it gets hard, you grab the holy feet of refuge, holy feet of Guru, taking refuge in Pure Land, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. It becomes a refuge, and it gives so much back. We speak of the 5 refuge jewels in Amrita Mandala, but essentially it's our own pure basic nature. This is something we discover over time. In the beginning it is not and it cannot be apparent that the 5-fold refuge is all about our own pure nature. But we realize that over time. And my experience, I wasn't really planning to talk about this, but my experience is that when your family members and spouses and ex-spouses and relatives and your bank and your boss and your job and everybody around you might, betray or fail you, the refuge and the Dharma will never do that. It will always carry you. Always. So that's what I mean, that if you're going to do this, if you're going to practice, think about these things. And then when you're done thinking, and when you choose to practice, put your all into it. Put your love into it. Even if you think that there's no love in you, even if you might think that you're so screwed up that you can't do anything. No, you can. Same purity is in you, like there is in me, like there is in Padmasambhava, like there is in Maranatha, like there is in all gurus. Exactly the same. One thing that I was speaking earlier is paralysis. Something that traumatization does. Also self-delusion does that. But especially traumatization makes us paralyzed. It makes us freeze emotionally, energetically. It's kind of like even if we try to open the windows and doors, the energy just doesn't move at moments. That's like emotional paralysis, emotional freeze. Learn to recognize that, so that there's no way avoiding, there's no way to simply decide and stop all the trauma patterns from happening, trauma programs from happening. It's not possible because we are not robots, we are not computers, we are organic creatures. But learn to recognize when that happens. Learn to recognize your emotional states. Learn to recognize your anger, your panic, your fear, your shame, being awkward, being irritated. Learn. You only learn by being aware and looking. Here I'm coming back to the point that committed practice. You don't just kind of suddenly understand and master your mind and emotions and heal your traumas by playing computer games or watching movies or playing tennis with your friends. You don't just suddenly, the skills don't come about spontaneously like that. So, Milarepas ass calluses. We need a pair of those. We need to develop a pair of those. So here we are sitting together to liberate ourselves, our confusions, delusions, into the nature of mind, empty nature of mind. All that dualistic positioning based on the thought of I, me, mine, that makes us contract. Very important, that point. The I that makes us contract. This kind of self, may that self dissolve to Dharmakaya, this body of Dharma, body of empty phenomena, nature of mind, for the sake of all beings. May the bhumis open up. May the bhumis be perfected. Nadis open, nadis active inside our bodies, in the aura, all the way to the edge of the aura, and in the vertical pillar. All nadis completely open, active, radiant, prana flowing through like a pure crystal river. River of pure water, for the sake of all beings. And may the knots and traumatic imprints stored in the meridian system, in the space inside the skin, may those knots loosen, 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 open up, so that energy starts flowing through the meridians where they didn't flow before or didn't flow as well. And may those emotional, suppressed emotions and emotional pain and habits based on those shocking events, may they dissolve into this nature of mind and body, for the sake of all beings. May the vital energy, prana, chi, ki, that has dispersed during shocking, traumatizing moments in our life, may it return back to our system. Calling back our vital energy, power, for the sake of all beings. But right away, something happens, isn't it? Do you feel it? If there is something you don't feel in this session or in any session that I teach, repeat it yourself, what I just, when I said a prayer like that or asked a blessing from a guru in a different session, repeat it. Always we need to have sensation. Always. If it still feels you're not certain, am I feeling something or not really sure, then repeat the prayer. Perhaps like this. May my vitality that has dispersed return to me in a way that I really feel it. Same thing when practicing Guru Yoga. If you don't feel the blessings of the Guru, ask him or her, please make this stronger so that I can feel it. It's that simple. Communicating, working on it. Together with dispersed vital energy, with love, with compassion, with my heart and soul, I would like to request the broken bits and pieces of our channels to come back to their original places. For the sake of all beings. Whether they are just very small, very tiny fragments, broken fragments, or slightly bigger, or like bigger bits, tiny or big, may all these fragments come back to where they should be. Just like when we first got traumatized and our energy and our channels were broken, and it changed our lives in an instant. In the same way, we can change our lives by retrieving our power and retrieving those broken bits. For the benefit of all beings. Now that we have done a bit of mending, a bit of power retrieval, bodhicitta 2, let's invite the blessings of the rainbow shamans. Who are masters, not only rainbow body masters, light body masters, but so far I've had the immense pleasure to connect with the previous lives of my beloved gurus, and their previous reincarnations have become close to me themselves. And there has been others who've had like a similar status, like this, how to say, parent type, grandparent type status over shamans and shamanism since ancient times. But we have these three. Guru Rinpoche's former life as Karuapo, Tirumular's former life as Shivaji, and Agastya's former life as Amarji. So with love, with total openness, I'm inviting their blessings for each one of us and us as a group. All three together. Karuapo, Shivaji, Amarji. Very good. Keep taking it in. Stay in tune. Lie down. Let's finish with short prayers, relative bodhicitta and dedication of merit. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings. Much love and thank yous, gratitude to Karuapo, Shivaji and Amarji for their kindness, for their blessings, for their support.